During what was meant to be a romantic dinner, my wife, Jessica, locked eyes with me over the candlelight and said something that burned through me like acid. "I've planned something thrilling for tonight," she purred. "I invited another man to join us in bed. I want you to see how it's really done. Maybe he can give me what you haven't been able to in 12 years. The steak in my mouth turned ash. I dropped the fork. The clinking sound was the only thing between us for a full, silent minute. I stared at her. Not blinked. Not breathed. Just stared. My throat tightened as if a fist was closing around it. She took another sip of wine, smug as ever, like she'd just told me we were going to try a new restaurant, not invited another man to destroy what was left of our broken marriage. I kept my voice even. Dead calm. "If that man dares step into my house, I'll make sure he leaves shattered," I said. "And you? I'll throw both of you out, naked and broken, for the whole neighborhood to witness your disgrace. That night, you'll lose more than just your pride. You'll lose this home forever." She smirked. "Yeah? We'll see." Then she stood up, ran her tongue over her bottom lip like some damn movie villain, and walked away from the table with her wine glass like she was in a parade. That should have been the end of the night. But what happened next was something no one could have seen coming. An hour later, I was home, sitting in the living room. No lights. Just me, the ticking clock on the wall, and the question hammering inside my skull. Was she serious? I didn't want to believe it. I should have seen the signs. But I didn't. I'd been blind. Jessica had been colder for months, excuses not to touch me, to travel alone, girls' nights that started at 7 p.m. and ended at 4 a.m. Her phone used to be open. Now it lived face down. Changed passwords. Sudden new underwear. Expensive perfume I didn't buy. And that scent? It hadn't been for me. But I was a fool. A loyal fool, still believing in 12 years of vows. I heard a car pull up. I stood by the window but stayed hidden behind the curtain. A sleek black Dodge Challenger parked in front of my house. He got out, tall, muscular, smirking like he'd already claimed what wasn't his. He adjusted his shirt in the reflection of his side mirror, then grabbed something from the passenger seat, a small, expensive-looking duffel bag. And then, Jessica stepped out of the passenger side. Her heels hit the pavement like daggers into my spine. She was laughing, adjusting her skirt, clearly tipsy, clearly not caring. I saw her lean into him. He grabbed her waist like it was his right. Her hand disappeared behind his neck, pulling him down, God help me, as they kissed right there. They were outside my house. The same doors she decorated last Christmas with "Home Sweet Home" signs and fake snow. I opened that door. The night air cut like ice against the fire in my chest. They froze when they saw me. Jessica's smile dropped. The guy, though, he laughed. "Yo, you must be the husband," he said. His name was Tyler. I'd learn later. A gym trainer. Classic. Jessica didn't flinch. Didn't explain. Just said, "We're going upstairs." I stepped onto the porch, calm like before. But my fingers were curled so tight they turned white. "You take one step inside my house," I said to him, "and you're not walking out the same man." Jessica pushed past me. "Grow up, Daniel." She brushed her shoulder against mine like I was some trash in her way. Tyler tried to follow, and that's when my fist met his cheekbone. The sound cracked louder than I expected. He stumbled back, cursed, but I was already between them. "You think this is some game?" I shouted. She turned, narrowed her eyes. 12 years of boring? You think I care if you cry now? That was it. That was the moment something in me snapped, not just anger, but clarity. The clarity that the woman I loved was gone. Replaced. Erased. And what stood in her place was something cold, calculating, and venomous. I didn't hit her, but I made a choice. I reached for her luggage, the one she packed just yesterday for a spa weekend, and I hurled it onto the lawn. "You want to act like a whore in public?" I said. "Then live like one." Out. I slammed the door in her face. But that wasn't the end. Behind that door, something else waited. Something that would change everything. The slam of the front door echoed through the house like a gunshot. But inside, there was no relief. No calm. Just the roaring silence of a man standing in the wreckage of something he thought was love. I stood in the hallway, breathing hard, hands still trembling. Outside, I heard Jessica shouting at Tyler to help her get her suitcase from the wet grass. She was cursing, whining, calling me pathetic. It sounded like static. My ears were ringing too loud to hear it clearly. 12 years. And she threw it away like it meant nothing. I walked upstairs, straight into the bedroom. The bed still smelled like her perfume, sweet, expensive, fake. The kind of smell that covers rot. Her side of the closet was still full, but now it just looked like a costume rack for a woman I didn't know anymore. That's when I noticed her second phone. She always had two. Said one was for work. Something told me that was a lie, but I never had the guts to push. Tonight, though, my gut overruled everything else. I grabbed it from her drawer. Locked? Of course. But Jessica was arrogant. She wasn't the type to use complicated passwords. No, she thought no one would dare touch her things. First try, her birthday. Second try, mine. Third, Tyler's name. Click. It opened. I wish it hadn't. The home screen was a picture of her and him. At a beach. She was wearing a bikini I'd never seen before, sitting on his lap, laughing like a teenage girl with no husband, no responsibilities, no soul. Her fingers were in his hair. His hand? On her thigh. I scrolled through the messages. Every cliché in the book. Last night was insane. You know what I like. I keep picturing your hands. He has no idea. He still thinks we're working on us. But the one that hit hardest was a photo. A selfie. Jessica in our bed, with Tyler lying shirtless behind her, giving the camera the finger. Caption, he's downstairs. LMAO. If only he knew. I sat on the edge of the bed. My vision blurred. I didn't cry, I couldn't. It was beyond tears. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped my chest out and left just the shell. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was cruel. Intentional. Spiteful. She didn't just cheat, she made it a game. Something to laugh about. Something to brag about. I dropped the phone and stared at the floor. How did I miss this? How long had I been loving a ghost? A stranger in my home? And the worst part? I blamed myself. For working late. For not noticing sooner. For still wanting to believe that maybe, we could fix things. But there's no fixing this. Suddenly, I heard the front door open again. Footsteps. Not hers. Not his. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, an old baseball bat from the corner of the room, and crept downstairs. Every sound was sharp now. A creaking step. Breathing. A cough. When I turned the corner, I saw my neighbor, Chris, standing in my hallway, holding a paper bag. Jesus, Dan, he said, raising his hands. I thought you might need this. He handed me a bottle of whiskey and a pack of cigarettes. I saw what happened outside, he muttered. She's something else, man. I took the bottle in silence. She's been coming home late a lot, he continued, hesitating. But you probably know that. I didn't want to get involved, but I've seen that guy before. More than once. Of course he had. Everyone probably had. I'd been the fool. The clown. The husband playing house while his wife played me. I nodded slowly, holding the bottle like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Thanks, Chris, I said. Really? But in my head, something was already shifting. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was war. And I was done playing nice. The whiskey burned going down, but it didn't touch the fire that had already taken root in my chest. I sat in the living room with the bottle resting between my knees, Chris long gone, and the silence thick enough to choke on. That second phone still sat on the table like a live grenade. I stared at it, daring myself to look again. I didn't want more proof. I had enough, but there was a dark part of me that needed to see it all. The whole bloody mess. I needed to know just how deep her lies went. So I opened it again. Messages from numbers saved as catering, Monica, and dry cleaning flooded the screen. I clicked through one by one. Not clients. Not friends. Just more men. Different names. Different nights. She was juggling 3, maybe 4 guys at once. Some were months old. Others were from just last week. One stood out, a thread titled, My Escape Plan. It was a long, disgusting chain between her and someone named Jared. Apparently, her plan was to use Tyler to get me to explode, cause a scene, so she could paint me as abusive, unhinged, a dangerous man she had to leave. Once he loses it, she wrote, it's mine. The house. Half the accounts. He'll crack, and I'll finally be free. And Jared responded, you deserve better. Let him burn. She'd been laying traps for months. All the coldness. The neglect. The provocations. She wanted a reaction, any reaction that could make her look like a victim. And tonight? That dinner? It wasn't spontaneous. It was the final play. She never wanted to fix us. She wanted to break me and profit off the pieces. I stood up too fast. My vision blurred. I felt my jaw clench, fist balling at my sides. I was shaking, not with sadness anymore, but with rage. Pure, white-hot rage. That woman wasn't just cheating. She was engineering my downfall. And I'd been sleeping beside her. trusting her, loving her like a fool. Suddenly, I heard her voice outside again, laughing, louder this time. Then a knock at the door. Light, mockingly polite. I didn't move. Daniel, she called through the door in her sing-song voice. Come on. You really going to lock me out? I'm cold. Don't be dramatic. I said nothing. Another knock. Then I heard her trying the handle, still locked. She sighed loudly. You're overreacting. He didn't even come inside. I gritted my teeth. Still no answer. Fine, she hissed. Be a little B***tch about it. I'll sleep at Tyler's tonight. But don't think this is over. You'll regret embarrassing me like that. Then came the kicker, her signature line, the one I used to laugh at when she was annoyed with a waiter or a store clerk. You have no idea who you're messing with. Then silence. I walked to the window and watched as she stomped off toward the Challenger, heels clicking, muttering something to Tyler. They got in and sped off down the street. I stayed standing there, staring at the empty road. She wanted to destroy me. She was confident she could. But now I had her phone, her messages, her photos, her plan. And I wasn't going to break. I was going to burn her world down first. I walked upstairs and opened the safe. Took out every file, every document, our marriage certificate, joint account statements, home deed. I laid them out on the bed like a war map. This wouldn't be a divorce. It would be a massacre. And in the end, only one of us would still be standing. She came back the next morning like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just spit on 12 years of marriage and danced on the ashes. She walked in holding a Starbucks cup, sunglasses on, keys swinging in her hand like a spoiled teen coming home past curfew. I was in the kitchen, calm, dressed, sober, her second phone sitting on the table beside a manila envelope. She paused when she saw it, only for a second. Then she smiled. You really need to relax, babe, she said, sipping her drink. We both know you're not actually throwing me out. I didn't move. I just looked at her. Tyler drop you off? I asked. She raised an eyebrow. So what if he did? I tapped the phone with one finger. You ever hear of emotional murder, Jess? She rolled her eyes. God, don't be dramatic. I told you what I wanted. I didn't sneak around. At least I gave you the chance to be a man about it. You gave me a test and hoped I'd fail. I stood slowly, picked up the envelope, and slid it toward her. Open it. She hesitated, then grabbed it like she was humoring me. Pulled out the stack of printed texts, emails, and photos from her secret phone. Her expression didn't change, not right away. But her hands stiffened. I saw the first crack in her armor when she saw the photo of her and Tyler in our bed. The one where he flipped off the camera like he was king of my castle. You went through my phone, she asked, a sudden hiss in her voice. You brought it into my house, I said. That made it evidence. She flipped to the next page. A screenshot of the escape plan conversation with Jared. And that's when the cracks broke wide open. You shouldn't have seen that, she said, voice low. Oh, but it's real? I asked. You admit it? She didn't answer. Just dropped the envelope back on the table and crossed her arms. I was tired of pretending, she finally muttered. Tired of you. Of this house. Your boring life. You're so safe, Daniel. So steady. Like toast. Like plain king toast. Asterisk, you haven't touched me in months. I tried. You pushed me away. Because I wanted a man, not a roommate. My jaw clenched. I stepped closer. So your solution was to humiliate me in public? Bring some gym rat into our bed and hope I'd snap so you could steal everything on your way out. She blinked. You think I don't know how this game works? I said. You wanted the house. The money. Sympathy from your friends. You wanted me to look like the monster. You are a monster, she snapped. Look at you. Creeping through my messages, threatening people, throwing punches. You planned it. All of it. And you fell for it, she smirked. Which makes you the fool. I stared at her, the woman I once thought I'd grow old with, and felt absolutely nothing. No sadness. No pity. Just disgust. You're not the same person I married, I said. She shrugged. Good. That girl was weak. No, I said. She was loyal. Loving. You killed her. Her smile twisted. So what now? You think you're going to beat me at this? Go ahead. Drag me through court. I'll still walk out richer. I leaned in, whispering in her ear, not if I strike first. She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time, she was scared. Good. Because I wasn't Daniel the nice guy anymore. This was war. And I'd already drawn first blood. Jessica didn't come home that night. She texted once, a pathetic, half-hearted message that read, Hope you're ready to lose everything. Tyler's got a great lawyer. I didn't reply. Instead, I spent the evening collecting more. I copied everything on her second phone to my laptop: photos, messages, voice notes, GPS logs. I even found receipts for hotel rooms she'd booked during her so-called work trips. One was from the night of our anniversary. While I'd been setting the table, lighting candles, and laying out the gift she never opened, she was in a king-sized suite downtown with a man who used protein powder like cologne. Every line now had a timestamp. Every betrayal had coordinates. The next day, I met with a divorce attorney. A woman named Claire, sharp as a razor, wore black like it was armor. I handed her the folder with Jessica's printed affair, and her eyes lit up like she'd just been handed the script to a courtroom thriller. She messed with the wrong man, Claire said, flipping through the evidence. With this, we'll burn her to the ground. I nodded once. No emotion. I wasn't doing this out of spite anymore. This was survival. Jessica had declared war. I was just responding in kind. By the end of the meeting, Claire had filed an emergency injunction on our joint accounts. Jessica wouldn't see a dollar she didn't earn. The house was frozen. She couldn't sell, rent, or even redecorate a damn chair without approval. That night, the messages started again. You're pathetic. Blocking my card? Real mature. You think you're gonna win? Everyone's on my side. She was unraveling. I could feel it through the screen, the panic. The sudden realization that the man she thought was weak had claws. That the safe little husband she'd mocked now held the keys to her ruin. But the best was yet to come. I met with Chris, my neighbor, again. He handed me something, a flash drive. Hidden security footage from his home cameras that faced the street. You'll want to see this, he said. And I did. It showed Jessica and Tyler kissing in my driveway. Not once. Not twice. 6 different nights. One of them, the night she told me she was at a friend's baby shower. She wore white that night. Said it was girls only. Then there she was, on camera, wrapping her legs around another man before even reaching the front steps. With the footage, the texts, and the photos, Claire's legal team sent Jessica the official papers. The reaction came fast. She showed up the next day, dressed in a fake apology. Tight blouse, crocodile tears, the kind of vulnerable act that might have worked on me 5 years ago. I made mistakes, she said, standing in the doorway. But we've been unhappy for a long time. Don't you think we should talk? I didn't even open the screen door. You had your chance, I said. Now talk to my lawyer. Her face twisted. You're actually doing this? You did this, I said. I'm just pressing play. She stormed off, flipping me off, and shouting over her shoulder, you're going to regret this. But I didn't. I was done regretting. She thought this would break me, but all she did was wake me up. 2 weeks later, Jessica's world started to crack. The first blow came when her account got declined at her favorite boutique. I know because she sent me 17 furious texts in a row, all in all caps. You blocked me out of everything? I have nothing, Daniel. Nothing. You're evil. You're a monster. After everything I did for you. I didn't respond. Not to that. And not to the call from her mother 2 hours later. Because yes, Jessica ran to mommy. Claimed I was being vindictive and financially abusive. Her mom left a voicemail. I listened to the first 10 seconds before deleting it. The thing is, Jessica had spent years painting me as the safe, stable husband. The nice guy who took care of things while she found herself. She didn't count on me ever growing a spine. But now? Now she was watching her empire of manipulation fall, brick by brick. And Tyler? He started cracking too. Apparently, gym boys don't handle real-life stress very well. I got a message from an unknown number one night. No name. Just a voice note. I recognized it immediately. It was Tyler. He sounded nervous, almost breathless. Hey, man. Look, I didn't know she was married when we met, all right? She said you were separated. I wouldn't have messed around if I'd known, all right? I didn't mean to. Just don't come after me, man. I'm out. I'm done. I played it twice. Then I forwarded it to Claire. By the time the first court hearing came around, Jessica looked like a ghost of herself. The designer outfits were gone. The fake tan faded. She wore sunglasses indoors and barely made eye contact with anyone. Claire stood beside me like a wolf in a business suit, reading off a list of evidence. Infidelity, financial misconduct, intentional emotional harm, calculated provocation. Jessica's lawyer tried to interrupt twice. Claire cut him off like she was slicing meat. The judge? He wasn't impressed with Jessica's emotional distress routine. Not after seeing the photos, the video footage, the receipts, the printouts. When the judge asked Jessica if she had anything to say in her defense, she stuttered through a half-baked speech about not feeling seen and trying to find happiness. But the court wasn't buying it. Neither was I. By the end of that hearing, I was granted sole control of the house, frozen our remaining assets, and got temporary custody of the dog, the only loyal soul left in that house, if we're being honest. Jessica stormed out of the courtroom like a wind-up toy that had finally run out of charge. She didn't even look back. Outside, I leaned against the car and took the deepest breath I'd taken in months. Claire smirked beside me. "You know," she said, flipping her hair, "most guys cry in there. Or beg for reconciliation. You stayed silent the whole time." "I stopped talking to liars," I said. "Saves time." That night, I sat on the porch alone, whiskey in hand. The dog curled at my feet. I could still smell her perfume faintly on the cushions. Still hear her laughter in the corners of the house. But it didn't hurt anymore. I wasn't mourning her. I was burying her ghost. Because the woman I once loved never really existed. She was a mask, a performance, a dream I projected onto someone who had already made plans to kill it. And the more I accepted that truth, the freer I became. It didn't take long for the rumors to start. In a town like ours, scandal travels faster than Wi-Fi. At first, people tiptoed, whispered, sent cautious messages like, "Hey, just checking on you." I heard something about Jess. I didn't reply to most of them. But then, the video leaked. The one from Chris's security camera, Jessica wrapped around Tyler on my porch, giggling like a schoolgirl. I didn't post it. I didn't have to. Someone on Claire's team accidentally shared it during the early stages of the discovery process, and someone else accidentally uploaded it to a local gossip page. By noon the next day, half the neighborhood had seen it, including Jessica's job. She worked at a private marketing firm, all image, all reputation. That video? It was poison. The kind that stains resumes and makes HR directors twitch. Within 48 hours, they put her on indefinite leave. She tried to spin it, of course. Tried to claim I was slandering her out of spite. But it didn't matter. You can't sue the truth. I found out later she had a breakdown in the parking lot of her office, screaming into her phone about how everything is slipping. Good. Let it slip. Because I wasn't just rebuilding. I was upgrading. I'd started running again. Eating better. Sleeping like a baby for the first time in years. My inbox was no longer a minefield of apologies and manipulations. My house, finally, felt like a home. Clean. Quiet. Peaceful. But then came the final blow. Tyler called me. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Curiosity's a cruel drug. His voice was low, tense, like someone calling from a bathroom stall. "Look, man. I didn't sign up for this," he said. "You signed up for my wife," I replied. "Pretty sure you knew the terms." No, you don't get it," he said. "She's losing it. She's talking about hurting herself. Or you. She said if she can't win, she'll burn the whole thing down." There was a pause. The kind that says, "I regret everything." He added, "She told me you used to hit her." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Of course she did," I said. "She needs a villain. She always does. I just figured you should know. Watch your back." I hung up. It wasn't anger I felt. Not fear either. Just that cold, razor-sharp recognition that Jessica had hit the desperation stage. She was cornered. Mask slipping. And when people like her lose control, they get dangerous. So I tightened my circle. Installed cameras inside and out. Gave Claire full clearance to speak to the police if needed. And most importantly, I started documenting everything. Every call. Every message. Every time she drove by the house slow, like she wanted to be seen but not stopped. It all went in a folder titled Insurance. And just when I thought she couldn't sink lower, she showed up drunk. It was 2:17 a.m. when I heard the banging. I checked the camera feed. There she was, barefoot, mascara running down her cheeks, shouting my name like she owned the night. "I loved you, you coward," she screamed. "I gave you everything." I didn't open the door. Didn't say a word. I just watched as she collapsed on the porch, sobbing into her palms, then crawled back to her car and drove off like a ghost trying to escape daylight. She thought love meant ownership. She thought loyalty meant weakness. But now? Now she knows what happens when a good man stops begging and starts walking away. And I was almost at the finish line. The final hearing came on a gray Friday morning. No thunder. No lightning. Just cold rain streaking the courthouse windows like nature was trying to rinse off the lies still clinging to the building. Jessica showed up alone. No lawyer this time. Tyler was gone, long gone. And so was her mother, her fake friends, and the mask she used to wear like a second skin. Her hair was pulled back, her eyes sunken. She wore all black, probably thinking it made her look serious. It only made her look small. I didn't speak to her. Didn't even look at her, really. Claire handled everything. She laid it all out for the judge. The proof, the planning, the malicious intent. It was no longer about a broken marriage. It was about character, or the complete lack of it. And Jessica? She had nothing left to say. No tears this time. No crocodile sobs. Just a blank stare, like she finally understood she'd lost. The judge gave the final ruling in less than 15 minutes. The house, mine. The accounts, frozen until reviewed, but mostly mine. The dog, mine. And Jessica? She got what she came for. Nothing. Afterward, Claire patted my shoulder and said, "It's done." But I didn't feel victorious. I felt, still, like the storm had passed, and all that remained was silence. Outside, Jessica was standing alone under a tree. She lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. As I walked by, she turned to me, eyes glistening. "You really hate me that much?" she asked, voice low. I stopped. Not because I had sympathy. Not because I cared. But because I wanted to say it out loud, once and for all. "No," I said. "I don't hate you. I hate who I became because of you." She blinked. I kept going. "You lied, Jessica. You used me. You mocked the life we built like it was a joke. And now you're standing here wondering why no one's coming to save you." Her lips trembled. "You'll miss me one day," she muttered. "I already did," I replied. "For years. And now I don't anymore." I walked away without looking back. That was the real ending. Not the gavel. Not the paperwork. Not the courtroom echo. It was the moment I left her behind in every way that mattered. It's been 4 months now. The house is quieter, cleaner, alive again. I repainted the bedroom, got rid of the bed, bought a new couch, a better one, firm, reliable, mine. The dog sleeps beside it every night, his tail thumping in his dreams. I started seeing someone new. Nothing serious yet. Just walks, laughter, easy conversation. Things that don't come wrapped in manipulation. She doesn't ask about Jessica. Doesn't pry. And for the first time in forever, I don't feel the need to explain myself. I sleep through the night now. No pacing. No overthinking. Just peace. But the scars remain. Not visible ones, emotional ones. The kind you carry quietly. The kind that teach you to pay closer attention to the little things. The late-night texts. The eye rolls. The subtle cruelties people disguise as jokes. Jessica taught me how to recognize poison wrapped in perfume. And for that, oddly, I'm grateful. If I had one piece of advice, don't ignore the shift in energy. Don't make excuses for betrayal just because it's dressed in lingerie and old memories. And never, ever confuse someone's chaos with passion. Because love doesn't try to break you. It builds you. And now, brick by brick, I'm building myself back. Stronger, smarter, and free.